Hello everyone, welcome to my channel Bold and Beautiful. Today Finn makes 5 shocking words after discovering Luna is still alive. Luna verified alive, Finn is perplexed by Lee's leave of absence. After John Finnegan was perplexed by Lee Finnegan's leave of absence, Luna Nozawa was verified to be alive on screen. Lee was carrying a large package of items when Finn stopped her as she passed the hospital. Finn was perplexed by the news because it was so different from his mother's behavior. Lee said she had packed things because she was taking a leave of absence. Lee pretended to need some time to absorb everything that had transpired with Luna and Poppy Nozawa prior to that, even though she is often a workaholic. The topic of Steffi Forrester spending some time away with the children came up. Finn knew they would return, but he would miss them. But Finn couldn't help but reflect on how Luna nearly prevented him from ever seeing his wife again. Lee finally stated that she needed to take care of something and that it should have been done a long time ago after Finn continued to grill her about her leave of absence. Lee then traveled to the place where she had Luna hidden in a hospital bed during Tuesday's B&B show. Lee pulled back the curtain to show Luna and pushed a few buttons on the medical equipment she was connected to after taking the goods out of her box. Eric Forrester, Ridge Forrester, and Brooke Logan celebrated their arrival in Naples with a rooftop welcome party. Nick met with a man in the meanwhile to discuss the boat he would need for his next trip with Brooke. Nick was reassured that the boat would be ready in time, even though a mechanic named Luigi was tinkering with the steering wheel and working on the hydraulics. After a while, Nick found Brooke and greeted her with a hearty Italian hello. Nick declared it a date and kissed Brooke while Eric scowled close by because Brooke had agreed to have some fun with him during this trip. Donna Logan and Taylor Hayes discussed how much they missed Ridge and Eric now that they were in Italy at the Forrester mansion. Taylor believed Nick could be a viable alternative for Brooke, but Donna ended up stating that Ridge was the only guy who truly made her happy. Taylor emphasized that Ridge was taken and stated that it was too bad that Nick wasn't Brooke's first choice, despite Donna's observation to the contrary. John Finnegan intercepted his mother, Dr. Lee Finnegan, her arm straining under the weight of a conspicuously large, sealed box. This wasn't the driven, impeccably composed chief of staff he knew, this was a woman visibly carrying burdens far heavier than cardboard. Her announcement of a sudden, self-imposed leave of absence landed like a physical blow, fracturing Finn's understanding of his mother's unwavering dedication. Lee, the quintessential workaholic whose lifeblood seemed to flow through the hospital corridors, voluntarily stepping away? It was profoundly, unsettlingly unlike her. Finn's confusion wasn't merely professional concern, it was a fissure in the bedrock of his perception of the woman who raised him. His probing questions, tinged with disbelief, met Lee's carefully constructed shield of exhaustion. She spoke vaguely of needing time, of the overwhelming cascade of events, the toxic tea scandal orchestrated by Poppy Nozawa that nearly destroyed Steffi, Luna's subsequent breakdown, and the shattering aftermath of Luna's apparent overdose and death. She framed it as emotional processing, a necessary retreat from the relentless storm. Yet, the sheer incongruity of it, coupled with that enigmatic box, screamed of something more deliberate, a hidden current beneath the surface calm she was trying to project. Their conversation inevitably drifted to Steffi Forrester's own departure, taking the children for a brief respite. While Finn felt the pang of their absence, it was a clean ache, softened by the certainty of their swift return, a stark contrast to the gnawing dread Lee's announcement provoked. Steffi's leaving was a protective measure, a balm for wounds inflicted. Lee's felt like an evasion, a vanishing act. And it was impossible for Finn to disentangle Lee's abrupt retreat from the specter of Luna Nozawa. Luna, Poppy's daughter, whose desperate act, fueled by Poppy's dangerous deception, had nearly cost Steffi her life and Finn his wife. Luna, whose body Finn himself had seen, whose death certificate Lee had signed. The memory was a raw nerve, and Lee's sudden need for distance felt obscenely connected to that near catastrophe. Finn pressed harder, his questions sharpening into accusations wrapped in confusion. Why now? What wasn't she telling him? What demanded her immediate, total absence? Lee's defenses remained firm but brittle. She deflected, reiterated her need for space, until finally, under the weight of his scrutiny, she offered a cryptic, chilling justification: I need to take care of something that should have been done a long time ago. The words hung heavy, ominous, implying a long-deferred reckoning, a secret duty that transcended hospital protocols and familial bonds. With that, she extricated herself, disappearing down the corridor with her mysterious burden, leaving Finn rooted in place, a maelstrom of suspicion, hurt, and unanswered questions churning within him, the sterile hospital air suddenly thick with the scent of buried truths. Meanwhile, continents away, the sun-drenched glamour of Naples offered a jarring counterpoint to LA's hospital intrigue. Eric Forrester, Ridge Forrester, and Brooke Logan, having escaped their own complex web of Forrester Creations drama and personal entanglements, were immersed in the carefree luxury of a rooftop welcome party. Laughter and clinking glasses filled the air, a world away from the grim realities Finn was grappling with. Yet, even amidst the Italian splendor, the seeds of future complications were being sown. Nick Marone, Brooke's persistent, passionate ex-husband, was meticulously laying the groundwork for his planned boat excursion with her. He met with a local mechanic, Luigi, who was elbow-deep in the vessel's hydraulics, fiddling intently with the steering wheel. Nick sought reassurance, his eagerness barely contained. Luigi's confident nod, the boat would be ready, the hydraulics smooth, the steering responsive, solidified Nick's plan. Later, tracking Brooke down amidst the revelry, Nick greeted her with an exuberant, almost theatrical Italian flourish. Brooke, swept up in the vacation spirit and perhaps seeking a distraction from her own tangled history with Ridge and Eric, readily agreed to fit in some fun. Nick seized the moment, declaring it a date and pressing a kiss onto her hand, a gesture laden with intention, performed under the immediate, disapproving glare of Eric Forrester. Eric's protective instincts flared, a silent reminder of the intricate history and simmering tensions that Brooke's presence always seemed to ignite, even on a Neapolitan rooftop. Back in Los Angeles, within the opulent, echoing halls of the Forrester mansion, another conversation unfolded, tinged with absence and romantic speculation. Donna Logan and Taylor Hayes, finding solace in each other's company now that their significant others, Eric and Ridge, respectively, were overseas, shared their feelings of missing their partners. Donna, ever loyal to her sister Brooke, steered the talk towards Brooke's perpetually complicated love life. She voiced the familiar refrain, Ridge was the one, the singular force who truly made Brooke happy, despite their endless cycles of conflict and reunion. Taylor Hayes, however, possessing a unique perspective as Ridge's ex-wife and Brooke's longtime rival turned ally, offered a contrarian viewpoint. With characteristic directness, she challenged Donna's assumption. Nick could be a real option for her, Taylor asserted, her tone suggesting she saw potential where others saw only past failure. Donna countered, pointing out the undeniable truth that Nick had never been Brooke's first choice, always playing second fiddle to the gravitational pull of Ridge Forrester. Taylor, however, dismissed this pragmatically. That's too bad, she retorted, her words carrying a hint of defiance. She deliberately highlighted the inconvenient reality Donna seemed to gloss over, Ridge was taken. He was committed to Taylor, finally seemingly settled after decades of romantic chaos. Taylor's implication was clear, clinging to the fantasy of Brooke and Ridge's inevitable reunion was futile, perhaps even harmful. Brooke deserved to explore other possibilities, and Nick, persistent and passionate, was undeniably one of them, regardless of his historical ranking on her list. But while the Forresters navigated romantic waters in Italy and debated Brooke's future in LA, the most critical drama was unfolding in near silence within a hidden, sterile room elsewhere in the city. Lee Finnegan, having successfully evaded her son's probing questions, arrived at her clandestine destination, a private, unregistered medical suite. The large box she'd carried so carefully from the hospital wasn't filled with personal effects for a vacation. It contained vital medical supplies. With the focused intensity that defined her surgical career, Lee unpacked 4 bags, monitoring leads, and specialized medications. The room held a single occupied bed, shrouded by a heavy curtain. Taking a breath that might have been steadying or resolute, it was impossible to tell, Lee pulled back the curtain. The revelation was staggering. There, pale but unmistakably alive, lay Luna Nozawa. She wasn't decaying in a morgue, she was suspended in a carefully maintained medical twilight, hooked up to sophisticated life support equipment monitoring her vitals. Lee's expression, as she gazed upon the young woman whose death she had certified, was inscrutable, a complex blend of professional detachment, profound guilt, and perhaps a terrifying sense of duty. She meticulously pressed buttons on the machines, adjusting fluid flow, checking readings, ensuring the fragile thread of Luna's life remained intact. This was the something she needed to take care of, the duty deferred a long time ago, not a retreat, but a vigil. Lee hadn't taken a leave of absence to process grief, she had taken it to maintain a monumental, ethically catastrophic deception. She was Luna's sole guardian, her jailer, and her savior, all roles bound by a secret so profound it threatened to obliterate her career, her relationship with her son, and her very identity. The confirmation of Luna's life was simultaneously a resurrection and a descent into a moral abyss, setting the stage for revelations with the explosive power to shatter countless lives when the truth inevitably surfaced. Finn's confusion, Brooke's flirtation, Eric's glare, Taylor's pragmatism, all faded into insignificance against the weight of Lee's secret and the fragile, monitored breath of Luna Nozawa. The web had been spun, and its threads, taut with deception and desperate choices, were ready to ensnare them all. Luna's Bridge reunion, awake and curious. Italy and Los Angeles from July 28 to August 15. When Ridge Forrester gets back together with Brooke Logan, he will finally understand that Eric Forrester is correct. Lee Finnegan's most recent secret patient is disclosed, and Electra Forrester is thinking about taking a new job. When Sheila Sharp seeks closure, Lee Finnegan silences her. Sheila Sharp wants to bid her granddaughter Luna Nozawa farewell because she thinks she is dead. Sheila will be shut off while she talks to Lee Finnegan about this. Lee has kept Luna's survival a secret from everyone, and Sheila is unaware of it. Fans will witness Lee restoring Luna's health, nevertheless. Electra will think about finding another work in the meanwhile. Naturally, Electra also thinks Luna is no longer a threat to her. Should Electra pursue a career in jewelry design and fashion modeling? Electra clearly has the appearance of a model. Will she pursue other career paths? After the deepfake incident, is Electra prepared to make her public debut? When Ridge Forrester goes beyond his limits. Initially, Ridge and Brooke will enjoy their time in Italy. Ridge and Brooke will go on a delightful boat ride. Despite his continued commitment to Taylor Hayes, Ridge does not want Brooke to spend time with Nick Marone. Infuriated, Brooke will also go on a boat cruise with Nick. A marriage proposal and some romantic moments will be shared between Nick and Brooke. Unfortunately, Brooke gets into an accident and the vacation takes a drastic turn. Watch for Ridge to abandon everything and rush to save Brooke. Ridge will ultimately be Brooke's hero and save her when she nearly drowns. Bridge gets back together just like Eric said. Ridge will get the motivation he needs to get back together with Brooke because of this accident. Naturally, Eric has been urging him to follow his heart and put things right for months. Although Taylor is not yet aware of it, Nick will be out of the picture by the end of this trip. How would Ridge inform her of the news? Will Taylor realize Ridge's true nature at last? Luna will recover consciousness in the meanwhile and start to doubt Lee's behavior. Lee is concealing Luna in order to prevent her from being imprisoned. Is Luna capable of changing as Lee thinks she can? Carter Walton is going to be attracted to Daphne Rose. Will Carter wind up in Daphne's bed as the competition between Hope Logan and Daphne intensifies? Lee Finnegan guarded with near-manic intensity within her sterile, hidden sanctuary, Luna Nozawa, pale but alive, her eyelids fluttering open after an agonizingly long darkness, awoke not to relief but to profound disorientation and a sharp, accusatory curiosity piercing through the fog of her trauma. Why, she rasped, her voice a fragile thread, her gaze locking onto Lee's carefully controlled expression, demanding answers Lee wasn't ready to give, answers buried beneath layers of maternal desperation and a calculated gamble to shield her daughter from prison. A gamble Lee fervently prayed would allow Luna the chance for the redemption she believed was possible, even as Luna's awakening mind immediately began dissecting the deception. This clandestine recovery unfolded under the oblivious nose of Sheila Sharp, whose grief, raw and surprisingly poignant, drove her to Lee's doorstep seeking morbid closure, convinced her granddaughter was lost forever. I need to say goodbye, Sheila pleaded, her usual venom laced with a heartbreaking vulnerability, only to be met with Lee's icy, impenetrable wall, there is nothing for you here, Sheila. Nothing to say goodbye to, Lee stated with finality, shutting down the desperate grandmother with a chilling efficiency that masked the frantic reality of Luna's fragile pulse just rooms away, a secretly guarded more fiercely than any medical chart. Meanwhile, navigating the sun-drenched chaos of Forrester creations in the wake of the deepfake scandal, Electra Forrester, buoyed by the perceived elimination of Luna's threat and perhaps seeking a fresh identity, found her ambitions stretching beyond jewelry design, the allure of the runway, a world where her undeniable beauty could command a different kind of power, began to crystallize. Should I model? She pondered, the question sparking a mix of excitement and trepidation, a chance to reclaim agency and visibility after humiliation, yet the shadow of the scandal lingered, a whisper asking if she was truly ready to expose herself so publicly again, to risk new vulnerabilities in the relentless spotlight. Far across the Atlantic, under the dazzling Italian sun, Ridge Forrester and Brooke Logan embarked on what promised to be a nostalgic idyll, their initial ease palpable during a blissful, laughter-filled boat ride along the Amalfi coast, the azure water reflecting a temporary truce, even a flicker of their old connection. Yet Ridge, ever possessive and fundamentally conflicted despite his professed commitment to Taylor Hayes, swiftly overstepped, his jealousy flaring at the mere sight of Brooke sharing an innocent coffee with Nick Marone. His heavy-handed demands that she sever the friendship ignited Brooke's fierce independence, propelling her defiantly into Nick's arms for their own boat excursion, a decision that cascaded into unforeseen peril. As romantic tension simmered between Brooke and Nick, culminating in a sudden, heartfelt marriage proposal under the Mediterranean stars, fate intervened cruelly, a rogue wave, a slip, a cry cut short, Brooke plunged into the churning sea, the idyllic scene shattering into terror. News of the accident sent Ridge into a frenzy of primal fear, Eric Forrester's persistent wisdom echoing in his panic, "Follow your heart, Ridge. Make it right before it's too late." He became a man possessed, racing to the chaotic scene, diving into the treacherous water without hesitation, battling the currents to reach Brooke, moments from succumbing to the depths. Hauling her limp form to safety, performing desperate CPR on the sun-baked deck until she choked back to life, Ridge wasn't just her rescuer, he was the undeniable proof of Eric's prophecy. In that near loss, the scales fell from his eyes, the tangled mess of Taylor and obligation dissolving in the face of his undeniable, life-saving love for Brooke. By the trip's end, Nick, though heartbroken, was respectfully sidelined, and Taylor, blissfully unaware in LA, was effectively out of the picture, leaving Ridge the agonizing task of delivering the news that would shatter her world, a reckoning forcing her to confront the painful truth about his eternally divided heart. Back in Los Angeles, as Luna grew stronger, her questions for Lee sharper, her understanding of her mother's drastic, illegal concealment deepening into a complex mix of gratitude and fear, another subplot simmered at Forrester Creations. Carter Walton, the usually steady conscience of the company, found his gaze lingering with newfound intensity on the enigmatic Daphne Rose, her ambition and contrasting energy a potent lure amidst Hope Logan's familiar turmoil. As Hope and Daphne's rivalry, fueled by professional clashes and personal tensions, escalated into open hostility, the question crackled in the charged air: would Carter, seeking solace or distraction, find himself irresistibly drawn into Daphne's orbit, perhaps even into her bed, adding explosive new fuel to the already volatile dynamic between the two women and risking the fragile stability he'd fought so hard to maintain? From Luna's fragile awakening and Lee's desperate secret, to Sheila's thwarted grief, Electra's career crossroads, Ridge and Brooke's dramatic, life-altering reunion forged in saltwater and terror, Eric's vindicated wisdom, and Carter's perilous new attraction, these scorching weeks promised seismic shifts, leaving every life indelibly marked and futures hanging precariously in the balance. John Finnegan intercepted his mother, Dr. Lee Finnegan, her arms straining under the weight of a conspicuously large cardboard box overflowing with personal effects, framed photos, stacks of files, a lab coat haphazardly folded over the top. The sight was jarring, discordant with the image of the woman Finn knew, Lee, the perpetually driven physician, the workaholic whose dedication often bordered on obsession, was seemingly abandoning her post. "Mom? What's all this?" Finn's voice, laced with confusion that quickly spiraled into profound concern, cut through the hospital's ambient hum. Lee halted, her posture rigid, avoiding his searching gaze for a beat too long before offering an explanation that felt flimsy against the gravity of her actions. A leave of absence. The words landed like stones in Finn's stomach. A leave? Now? In the tumultuous wake of the catastrophic events involving Luna Nozawa and the horrifying ordeal with Poppy Nozawa that preceded it? It was utterly unlike her, a deviation from her very nature that set alarm bells clanging in Finn's mind. He pressed, the image of Luna's presumed fate, a fate that had nearly stolen his own wife, Steffi Forrester, from him forever, flashing painfully behind his eyes. Process everything? Finn echoed, skepticism heavy in his tone. You, who practically live in these halls? Taking time off to process? He couldn't shake the visceral memory of Luna's actions, the poison that had almost severed his lifeline to Steffi and their children. Lee's usual steely composure seemed fractured, replaced by a weariness that went beyond physical fatigue, a deep-seated turmoil Finn couldn't quite decipher. She deflected, steering the tense conversation towards Steffi's own recent decision to take the children away for a respite, a move Finn understood and supported, though he keenly felt their absence. I'll miss them terribly, he conceded, his voice softening momentarily, but I know they'll be back, safe. The certainty of Steffi's return starkly contrasted with the chilling finality Luna's actions had threatened. Yet, the specter of Luna and the bizarre incongruity of Lee's sudden departure pulled him back. But this, Mom? This sudden leave? Packing up like you're leaving for good? It doesn't make sense. What aren't you telling me? Finn's questions grew sharper, more insistent, probing the carefully constructed facade Lee presented. Under his relentless scrutiny, Lee visibly crumbled, a flicker of something akin to desperation in her eyes. Finn, please, she implored, her voice tight, I need to take care of something. Something important. Something that should have been done, a long time ago. The cryptic finality of her words hung heavy in the air, a chilling admission wrapped in evasion, before she brushed past him, clutching her box like a shield, disappearing down the corridor towards the hospital's older, less frequented wings, leaving Finn rooted in place, a maelstrom of confusion, suspicion, and unanswered questions churning within him. Meanwhile, thousands of miles away and bathed in the golden warmth of a Neapolitan sunset, the atmosphere crackled with a very different kind of tension. Eric Forrester, flanked by his son Ridge and Brooke Logan, stood on a luxurious rooftop terrace, the sparkling expanse of the Tyrrhenian Sea stretching before them. A welcome party buzzed around them, laughter, clinking glasses, the melodic lilt of Italian conversation, a stark, almost jarring contrast to the grim hospital scene unfolding back in LA. Eric, visibly revitalized by the trip and the artistic inspiration Naples promised, beamed, soaking in the adulation. Ridge, ever the pragmatist with an